Ukraine, we uncovered an incredible story. Mirny is a depressed and run-down town miles from anywhere. Before the collapse of the Soviet Union, Mirny was a thriving Navy town. But now, half the flats are empty and stray dogs roam the streets. But in 1999, social workers found a situation shocking even by the standards of Mirny. On the third floor of this block, a 4-year-old boy called Edik was found in a deserted flat. His alcoholic mother was nowhere to be seen. As the authorities started asking questions, a horrifying picture began to emerge. While Edik's younger sister Nadia had been cared for by neighbors, Edik had been forced to look elsewhere for love and affection. Without a mother to care for him, Edik had turned to the local stray dogs for warmth and protection. Worse, he started to behave more like a dog than a human being.
His behavior was exactly like a dog's behavior should be. He was taking the food only with his hands, and he was scratching the younger kids and biting them.
Two years later, Edik is 6 and lives in a foster home in the nearest city. He has made remarkable progress, but still has many problems. His behavior has improved, and he is better with the other children. But linguistically, he is slow. Doctors have told us that while Edik is 6, his language is that of a 3-year-old. It seemed that Edik was suffering from many of the same language problems that had affected Victor and Jeannie so badly. The crucial question, had he been found in time, or would he, like them, never recover? To try and gain an accurate picture of Edik's condition, we took a leading language expert, Professor James Law, to the Ukraine to evaluate Edik.
There seem to be a lot of similarities between Edik and other feral children. One of the interesting things is he's been identified rather younger than some of the more extreme cases. So they had a much longer, extended period of neglect, whereas his neglect has been pretty acute, but for a finite period of time. And then he's come to this warm and very supportive foster family, and that has to be a good thing. I'd like to start.
To get a better picture, James spoke with Edik's foster mother.
Ну как он ходит? Он всегда себе компанию собирает. Простыми словами, это был дикий ребенок.
At the beginning, he was a wild child. He didn't know anything. He didn't even know what a plate or a spoon was, or how he should use them. And it took months to make him eat normally, and to get him to wear clothes and behave normally.
Противный ребенок.
Picture that his foster mother paints is, in the last 6 months or so, there seems to have been a bit of a breakthrough in some way, and it's not so much to do with his language, although that has been improving, it's to do with his ability to relate to other people and to, if you like, empathize.
With Edik's background clear in his mind, James could begin to make a more formal assessment of Edik's strengths and weaknesses. As the session progressed, it was clear that Edik was reveling in the attention. But just how much of an impact had 2 years of neglect had on his language? It was time for James to find out.
Now.
Это сёр. Это кишка, это сёр, это черепашка, это обезьяна, это тигр.
Эдик, слушай, сейчас мы тебя будем спрашивать, ты нам будешь отвечать, хорошо?
Point to the elephant first.
Тихо.
Listen very carefully. Point to the elephant first, and then point to the giraffe.
Покажи сначала слона, потом жирафа.
Good boy. Well done. Point to the cat and then to the bird.
Покажи сначала кошку, потом птичку.
Okay.
Молодец.
Okay.
Linguistically, Edik had made good progress since moving from the awful conditions in the town in which he was found. But the details of his past were still unclear. To get a better picture, James needed to take Eddick back to Mirny, the town where he had been so badly treated by humans that dogs had become his most faithful companions. As he walked around the village, Eddick could remember little of the details of what happened to him. But he could remember some of the places behind the flats where he had run and slept with the dogs that had become his family. As he continued, Eddick's confidence and memory seemed to be improving. He wanted to show James the flat where he had lived with the dogs. But as we re-emerged at the front of the block, we were greeted by a local delegation. Somehow, the mayor and police had been alerted to our presence. They claimed that the story about Eddick was a lie and demanded we stop filming.
She knows this woman. She's saying that everything that he was told about this family is totally wrong, and that's why if you shouldn't film anything here.
It was clear that something had happened here, but with the mayor and police's vigorous denials, it was far from certain exactly what. However, as we were leaving the town, James was approached by a local woman who clearly recognized both Eddick and Nadia. Despite the police's intervention, she was determined to tell him what she had seen when the children lived in the town.
Absolutely awful conditions. She never cleaned her flat. There was fish on the floor, and the dogs living there. The conditions was absolutely awful.
We have heard stories that the children used to play a lot with the dogs, with animals around the flats.
Они прям в квартире были? Да, в квартире, да. А много у них там в квартире было собак?
То две, то три, там, по-моему, всех она кормила.
She's saying that yes, the children were great friends of the local dogs, and the stray dogs used to come and live in their flat. There were always not less than 3 dogs in their flat, and Eddick was sleeping with them.
But could a young child really live with dogs? And if they could, how would this incredible relationship work? Animal expert Steve Fryer has worked with dogs for over 20 years and studied their very special bond with man.
The relationship between domesticated dogs and humans is really very special, and it's almost a primeval urge and feelings that we get about dogs, and I'm sure they have about us because they've been around us for so many thousands of years, and it's been passed on through generation after generation.
But how would he explain Eddick's incredible story?
I believe food was the issue, and the dogs were coming into the warmth and security of the apartment and getting regular food or irregular food. So they must have seen this young child as a provider for the pack, and perhaps pushed his status up much higher than if he'd just been a 3-year-old child running around with them. Dogs are very quick to learn, to seize on an opportunity. So if there's free food source, then it would be a very big bonus in their thinking capacity towards this child.
Eddick, it seems, was lucky. By offering the dogs food and shelter, he in return received the warmth and companionship that probably saved his life. But after only 2 years with the dogs, he had suffered serious consequences. But what of Oksana? She is now 19, but spent almost 6 years living in a kennel. She was found at 8, almost the same age as Victor. Would she ever be able to talk? Or would she, like Victor and Jeannie before her, be condemned to a life of silence?